Lately, I have been going over last year's Oricon charts rankings. It puts a smile on my face knowing that so much has changed in a decade, and Seiyu and 2D units being featured on Oricon's charts is one of those massive changes. In those charts, you see the results of hard work, luck, powerful fandoms, and a lot of good planning. It's quite the interesting thing to analyze if you're one to enjoy going over data and theorizing why certain CDs performed better than others on the charts. But at the same time, there are many CDs that never get to join Oricon's charts in the top 50 and others that fail to even sell enough copies for those projects or solo careers to be viable. There are so many talented groups, solo artists and bands that don't get the spotlight they deserve, and in 2020 it wasn't an exception. Forget the top sellers, forget the male Seiyu with big fandoms or popular Anisong CDs. In this episode, I will go over the underrated gems released in 2020 by your favorite male Seiyu and 2D units. Let's kick off this episode of Seiyu Lounge. Welcome to Seiyu Lounge. I am your host Vanessa, and today I will be talking about 10 albums that went under the radar in 2020. This is an episode featuring some of my favorite releases in 2020 that missed being ranked on the Oricon charts, the most important music charts in Japan, or those CDs that made it to the charts but sold under 3,000 copies. This is an episode to highlight the quality that there is beyond the insanely popular projects. I would love it if you checked these albums and give the projects, units or solo artists mentioned in this episode a chance. The entries in this episode are not ranked, and as per usual, reviews won't be available in the episode, but you can find in the description links to the albums if those are available on streaming platforms. Without further ado, let's start putting a well-deserved spotlight on these releases. Wataru Hatano with Never End Summer. If you listen to episode 22 of Seiyu Lounge, you're already familiar with this single. Never End Summer, single released in December 2020, not to mistake with the digital single that hit stores in the summer of 2020, sold under 2,000 copies in its week of release. Something that shocked me because the quality is off the charts. Additionally, Wataru Hatano is a solid singer, and the music was tasteful and on brand with the image and sound Hatano has embraced in the last couple of years. Yet, all positive points into account, and for sure this single sold well. Yeah, Never End Summer sold peanuts. I don't know if the single actually ended up selling a lot digitally, but as far as physical copies are concerned, Never End Summer is what you'd consider an underperforming single. This single was made for the summer and looks like it was intended to be released as a full single during the summer instead of just the digital release that was made during that season. Yet it managed to fit winter, which is already pretty positive. If that wasn't enough, Vivid Junction, by now my favorite song released by Wataru Hatano since his debut, is included. A dash of retro synthwave with a futuristic taste found its way into Seiyu territory, and man, isn't this one of the best songs released in 2020? All things considered, Wataru Hatano's Never End Summer is one hell of an awesome single that is, like all releases in this episode, criminally underappreciated. Shotaro Morikubo, Way Out. For many, Shotaro Morikubo is an awesome rocker with a lot of sense and a sort of nostalgic sound that those that were kids in the late 90s, early noughties will deeply appreciate. He has those new metal, rap rock influences in his sound and loves to revisit those from time to time. Way Out brought that aggression back to the table and was as exciting and interesting as some of Morikubo's old school jams like Chain Reaction and Truth. Yet it sold 576 copies. You heard it well, the single sold well under 1,000 copies. In the music industry, this is considered a flop. Shotaro Morikubo pulled off one of the best rock releases of the year among male seiyuu, and it went completely off the radar as soon as it was released. I even dare to say that there wasn't much interest by fans even as Lantis was promoting the release, which I find pretty odd. Why? It can be for a wide variety of reasons. Maybe his fans are no longer into his music. Maybe his fans prefer to buy digital. Rock music is not popular among seiyuu fans, so there's that as well. Bad timing. I seriously don't know, but one thing is for certain, Way Out deserved more for how poignant and powerful it is, not just the sound but the lyrics. Shotaro Morikubo knows how to craft rock music that reaches the listener. It is aggressive when needed, it is loud only to accentuate phrases, and his vocals are always on point, showcasing a charisma and confidence that is not easy to find and make theirs. Erosion with Redhead. Erosion, 5-vocal rock band stemming from Reject's Carnelian Blood franchise, only sold 1,074 copies of Redhead. Yeah, you heard it well. A single that gave a lot to talk about and easily stands out as one of the best singles released in 2020, sold that few physical copies. As big of a rock music fan as I am also pretty aware that fans of seiyuu and 2D music projects don't appreciate the music genre. Most flock to idol groups, and thus rock bands as awesome as this one go under the radar. That's how you get something similar to what happened to Bandia Rose. It simply didn't sell enough game and music to warrant keep going despite the high level of quality of the project and the music for all bands. I see a bit of this happening to all rock projects currently active in the 2D music industry. Dig Rock have the same issue. Vez Rock struggle to sell well despite the awesome music releases. Fly Me Project, the OG Visual Kei rock project in the 2D music industry, is on hiatus since 2017. Gang Rock tanked before it even got to its first anniversary. Argonavis from Bang Dream franchise aren't big chart toppers, but they managed to stay afloat on the charts, performing better than most of the projects I've mentioned previously. Still, we have to agree on this, rock is far from being a well-loved music genre. Fans of 2D music projects don't seem to care about rock music. And we've been seeing less and less of these in the last couple of years. We have around 25 2D music projects that are focused on pop music, and within those, we have a lot of idol projects. We have less than 5 rock projects active. Makes you think. Back to what I was saying, Erosion released 3 singles in 2020, and out of these, Redhead was the one that shone the most. Redhead is powerful, intimidating, and overflowing with energy and quality. The title track is hands down Erosion's best song to date, a bona fide banger of a rock track. The chorus is explosive, the blend with electronica works pretty well. It has a beautiful and unexpected gentle side in the pre-chorus, and some of the best vocals so far in the franchise. Get Out was of similar tone, keeping the electronica and rock blend going, counting with multiple tempo changes that keep you on your toes. And Shamming was a different iteration for the group, distancing themselves from rock for a bit, yet it is still quite the awesome song. While I am aware that new projects aren't usually quick to reach solid popularity levels, almost a year after their first single and Erosion are still a pretty unknown band, even among overseas fans that are more prone to gravitate towards rock music. While they haven't been the most consistent outfit, they do have an awesome lineup in Shoya Chiba, Toshiyuki Toyonaga, Arthur Lounsbury, Ryota Suzuki and Yuya Hirose. Top it all off with rock tunes that make your heart race, begging for you to headbang along, and you have quite the good outfit in hands. A pity that many fans of 2D music projects avoid rock like it's the plague. Vezi with Blue. Vezi are a group within the Tsukipro franchise, the one that counts with Solid, Squall, Soara, Growth and Infinito Zero. And you can tell already from the names mentioned how much of a powerhouse this franchise is, with its exciting and highly technical seiyuu lineups for each of their projects. Vezi are no different. Led by the warm, deep vocals of Tarusuke Shingaki, and counting with Yusuke Kobayashi, Masahiro Yamanaka, Yusuke Shirai, Tsubasa Sasa, and Shun Hori, the group is pretty much covering a wide vocal range and counts with various highly technical and experienced singers within it. Their sound blends rock and electronica and does so in a tasteful way, and with a really welcoming presentation that makes their music attractive even for those that don't fancy rock music that much. Since their debut in 2018, I feel like the group and even the Vez Rock franchise don't have that big of a fandom, at least not organically. Most fans have gravitated from Solids and Quell to this franchise as there are connecting threads between the members of the groups, and overseas fans are scarce. However, we, overseas fans, don't count for the Oricon chart, so let's not touch upon that topic. Easily one of the best singles released in 2020 was Vezi's Blue, which ended up being criminally underappreciated and didn't even enter Oricon's top 50. Yes, you heard it well, not even within top 50. How? If this single is the best Vezi has released as a group? Honestly, I don't know. By now you can already guess that I don't know how any of the CDs mentioned in this episode didn't get more love. Vezi's Blue is worth picking up and going for a spin. The group went the minimalistic electronica route for this release as a whole, leading to two of the best performances they've pulled off since debut. Kizuna no Tori has a nostalgic vibe to it, brought to the table by those distant guitar licks, and Yurete Itai is quite the upbeat, up-tempo tune coming from a group that aren't necessarily known for this type of music. I love the fact that for this release, things toned down and the focus was put on delivering a good, consistent sound, but never stealing the focus away from Vezi's vocals, group that has easily the best vocals in the Vez Rock franchise. The bounce and punch in the bass lines had me going, jamming along to these tracks in those beautiful summery soundscapes. The vocals were certainly the best Vezi has provided us with. Shingaki, Kobayashi and Horia's vocals in Yurete Itai are exactly the reason why this group deserves your attention. Stellar stuff right there. And I could keep on talking about this single for days, but I won't. I'll let the single do the talking. If you can, please do check Vaz's Blue, a gem that needs more love. Solids with Diamond. Although Solids ended up selling well over 3,500 copies of Diamond after 3 weeks, truth is that on its release week, the single only counted with roughly 1,700 copies sold. The first week's results are the most important. It's usually when the groups, bands, or solo artists are on top of their sales power, as core fans want to purchase the CDs on the release date to not miss a thing. All sales after that come from people that got curious about the CD or later purchases by fans that couldn't purchase on release day. Seldom there are artists that manage to have a continuous sales power across several weeks. That's why the first week is the most important. All this talk to say that Solids Diamond is yet another sleeper CD by the talented quartet that in 2020 was celebrating their 5th anniversary in the most elegant way possible, by performing jazz, music, and ballads. Diamond shines way beyond what was expected coming from what is the Skip Row's well-known, passionate, and alluring quartet. Vocals were crisp, distinctive, perfect lines distribution, and the consistency and control on everyone's vocals put everyone in Solids in the same page. Game Is Mine created a rich soundscape that takes the listener to an elegant small jazz club for a performance that could as well be forbidden due to how much the group has leveled up their allure for it. But the surprise came from Timeless, the kind of song that you'd easily hand to Quell or even Soara to perform. While sounding a bit off in the first couple of seconds due to how unexpected it is, the song starts to slowly sink in and in and in. When you get to the first chorus, you're already completely invested into this song and totally surrendered to Solids' unexpected, sweet and honest side. That is something you don't usually have from them, a slow burn acoustic ballad focused on the emotional range of the group's members. Solids' Diamond is a must listen, an underappreciated gem in their repertoire, an unexpected change of tone and image that made the group shine. Quell with Heart. Yet another Skip Row group. It seems like there is a pattern forming. Quell were a bit shy from 2,000 copies with their entry in the card series, Heart. Once again, awesome performance by a lineup that marvels a lot of people since their debut. I'm talking about Shunsuke Takeuchi, Kotaro Nishiyama, Shugo Nakamura, and Sho Nogami. Massive emotional range is one of their greeting cards, with the other being the unique experimental sound they have that is as crystal clear as water and hits the listener like ripples in sad water. The theme was heart and the group really embraced it, going for a set of 2 songs with slight romantic and ballad undertones. This is a first coming from this unit that is usually found experimenting with the most unexpected melodies and mixes of instruments. Love You Forever is a unique kind of ballad. It takes their ethereal, atmospheric, synth-driven sound and blends it with warm acoustic guitar riffs and gentle piano melodies. The song is pretty simple at its core, but contrary to other songs of theirs that are this simple, it exudes a lot of warmth. It can't be said enough, this is a really sweet song. The gentleness in Love You Forever is countered by the eerie vibe and dramatic sound and performance by Quell in Ai no Kibo. This is the kind of song that no matter how much someone describes it to you, you'll need to listen for yourself to feel that vibe and be put on that soundscape and experiencing the whole song. That dramatic tone that begs for a lyrical performance is in this song, and thankfully, Quell were more than up to the task at hand and delivered a confident and intense performance. If you're calling for jaw-dropping performances, Quell always deliver. A pity that the sales numbers don't match what they deserve for their quality and consistency. Rubia Leopard, Trigger. I already mentioned the Dig Rock franchise in the Erosion entry in this episode, so you knew this was eventually coming. Rubia Leopard went for a massive and impactful rock mini-album with Trigger, yet the fans were nowhere to be found. For those of you that are not familiar with, Rubia Leopard is a rock band with grunge rock and groove metal influences, and it counts with the powerful vibrato-filled vocals of Makoto Furukawa. Rubia Leopard's music is incisive, aggressive and alluring, all in good measures. Their sound isn't completely aggressive to the point that it keeps people on the fence about it. The fact that there is a playful, suggestive undertone to their rock sound makes their performances often flow to a pretty accessible rock sound. To top it all off, Makoto Furukawa is the frontman everyone wants to have in their rock band. Charismatic, consistent, versatile, and most of all, sensible, delivering passionate performances of various intensities and exploring different emotions depending on the song in question. Trigger is a mini-album that shows you that rock music in 2D music projects is alive and kicking, despite how much pop and hip-hop still dominate the field. Sales didn't keep up with the band's outstanding sonic experience, which is unfortunate, but if you're listening to this episode and still haven't checked them out, I thoroughly invite you to do it. Their first 3 singles are available on Spotify, so make sure to check them out. Impish Crow with Faith. In the same note come their fellow dig rock band Impish Crow. Now, this is a band that I was expecting would be much more popular because their sound is basically pop meets punk, in that it is fast-paced, fun and playful with easy lyrics that would welcome anyone even the slightest reluctant to check the group out because of the rock label on it. Impish Crow are a power pop band, meaning that they have simple, catchy pop lyrics and simple melodies on top of their hyped-up rock sound that is much more toned down than, for example, Rubia Leopard's blend of grunge and groove metal. The band also counts with the vocals by Yuma Uchida, currently one of the most popular voice actors in Japan, yet his fans didn't flock to Impish Crow, which leads me to think they really don't like rock music if they go as far as to completely ignore the band and Yuma's work on it. Impish Crow's sound is alive, it is overflowing with energy, excitement. It is the kind of music to pump you up as if you're being given a pep talk. Faith encompasses Impish Crow's exciting high-octane power pop, pop-punk sound and passionate vocals by Yuma Uchida. This is the perfect introduction to this band, as well as a mini-album that is easy to listen even by those that don't fancy rock, but still want to listen to Yuma Uchida acing every single challenge that is thrown at him. And it deserves much more love than what it got. Anthos with Message. As popular as Anthos and the Hanadol franchise are with overseas fans, it seems that the group and franchise weren't making a big impression domestically. Message, the group's best CD released in 2020, counted with a bit under 1,500 copies sold, which for us, fans outside of Japan and seeing how big the fan base is, can't believe it happened. Yes, Anthos' Message was a sleeper release, especially in Japan. They are a breath of fresh air in the 2D idol industry, having quite the distinctive sound and with a completely different vibe from other idol groups. Anthos' sound is simple and minimalistic. The focus is put on creating an ethereal, dreamy experience, and they achieve it time and time again, although through completely different compositions. Message added 2 new songs to their repertoire, but even these songs sound nothing alike previous releases of theirs. This fresh take on their sound and the ability to create dreamy, pleasing soundscapes that are unique in both their repertoire and even among other 2D projects is something that stands out as the group's main appeal. At the same time, Anthos is a vocal group, a fantastic one to boot. Daiki Hamano, Kento Ito, Wataru Komada, Toshiki Masuda, Shunichi Toki, and Seiichiro Yamashita work incredibly well as a unit, their vocal tones creating a unique group sound that encompasses each of their tones. With highly skilled singers in the lineup covering a wide vocal range, and with the versatility to cover even more, a good vocal direction, top-tier, aesthetically pleasing instruments, and cool concepts, this group has everything to rise on the popularity ladder. I've been a big advocate on supporting Anthos and spreading the word about them because honestly, you don't have any group like them currently in the 2D music industry. They are exciting and hypnotizing, their vocals are in perfect harmony, and the music direction of theirs is simply breathtaking. Yet they don't have big sales numbers, especially domestically. It goes to show that you really have to be the generic type of pop idol group project to stand out in Japan, which is, once again, a pity. Massive talent and unique music aplenty with Anthos. Why not give them a listen? They have their entire repertoire, drama tracks included, available on Spotify. If you can, please do check them out. Lolodi with Univers. The sleeper hit by one of the most exciting debuts in 2020. Lolodi made their debut with Univers. I really love how in one second I am speaking Greek and in the other I am speaking French when I mention the group's name and the album's title. Back to what I was saying. Lolodi made their debut with Univers and everyone excited enough to give this trio a chance was mesmerized. What did I just listen to? Was a common reaction followed by I've heard this kind of music before. And you have. As a matter of fact, Lolodi's composer is none other than Quell's composer. You know, the one that creates those awesome ethereal soundscapes with a lot of experimentalism on top, the great Hama Takeshi. So we were all in good hands with Lolodi. Better yet, the trio consists of Toshiyuki Toyonaga, Shunsuke Takeuchi, and Daiki Yamashita. Seriously, could the group get any better? We're talking about 2 vocal chameleons, Toyonaga and Yamashita, and a powerful baritone that also doubles as a bass, Takeuchi. Speed, technique, control, all 3 members have these. Lolodi's music is ethereal, classy, and pretty refined. I find their sound to be a hybrid of Quell, experimental electronica, with focus on vocals that sound like ripples in the water, and Growth, the refined touch in the instrumentals that demands a lyrical approach to the performances. The best of both worlds is found in Lolodi, and needless to say, These and the lineup makes me incredibly excited for what's to come for this group. This group may have only recently made their debut, but I thoroughly hope they can be really popular in the future. This type of talent on the vocal end doesn't come often, and their sound is such a delight to listen to. Their debut album is on Spotify, so if you can, please do check them out. Many more CDs could make the cut. Sleeper hits, unexpected releases, mesmerizing performances, dance floor bangers, rocking tunes, and loungy tunes. Many more deserve a place on this episode. With so much released last year, it's no wonder that many of these, especially those that are not big profile groups and artists, didn't stand out much, but if you can, please do check them out. They are all worth your time. "2020 was a prolific year filled with a lot of music released by 2D music projects and solo artists, but few were the ones that sold enough to pay for production costs, marketing, the voice actors' fees for their performances, producers, mixers and arrangers, and many other expenses closely connected to music. That's why I keep on insisting that you purchase the physical CDs by your favorite male seiyuu, idol groups or bands. Don't just stream. If you have the means, support them directly. It may not count for the chart numbers we see because those only count purchases by those living in Japan, but it always helps them keep on releasing music for you to enjoy. Now tell me, were you familiar with any of these CDs? What CDs released in 2020 have you felt that were underappreciated? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss the Hand That Feeds HQ's weekly male seiyuu and music-related content, hit the subscribe button. I'll return next week with another episode of Seiyuu Lounge. Thank you for listening and see you guys around.